Okay, welcome to Devorah Leah Torah class. We will discuss a very interesting topic, and it might seem like very interesting to you. We know at the beginning of the parsha, okay, it talks about how Moshe, Yaakov was so determined to be buried in Israel. He made his son make an oath. He made him, and Joseph says, "No, don't take me out. Don't wait. When you leave, then you take me." Isn't that amazing contrast between the two? Okay, so we're going to discuss a very interesting talk from the Rebbe on this topic, and hopefully we'll address some of these issues here. Okay, so the Rebbe discusses this issue, and the Rebbe says like this: that when Yaakov made Joseph make a promised him, don't bury me in, put your hand under my thigh, which means a holy place, basically. That's what it says in the Torah. And Rashi explained means make an oath. Don't bury me in Egypt. Lift me up. I want to be buried together with my aunts, my parents in the land of Israel, in Hebron, right? So then Yaakov says to Yosef, "I want you to make an oath." And Yosef made an oath. Joseph oath made a shavua oath. He's going to do it. Now the question is, we're talking about Yosef Tzaddik. We're talking about right a holy man like Joseph. Why does he have to make an oath? If he says yes, he's a commitment. Why do you need an oath? Right? Joseph himself said he's going to do it. So why do we need an oath? Right? And there are those commentaries which answer that later on when Joseph is going to ask Pharaoh to take his father up to Israel, father is not going to let. Sorry, not his father. Pharaoh's not going to let. He's going to tell Pharaoh, I made an oath. Can't he will want Joseph to violate an oath? Yeah, Pharaoh had a personal interest in that because when Joseph was appointed as king, was ruler, Joseph found out that Pharaoh found out that Joseph knows. Welcome. Pharaoh found out that there's one language he doesn't know, Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue. He knew all the languages and not that. He wanted Joseph to teach him, and he couldn't learn it. He couldn't learn the Holy Tongue, Lashon HaKodesh. So Joseph made an oath. Pharaoh made Joseph make an oath. Make an oath to me, you're not going to know anybody that I don't know the Holy Tongue. He was afraid he'll lose his kingdom if he doesn't know a language. In Egypt, you have to know all the languages. And so he was afraid to tell Joseph to keep his one oath because he'll say, okay, I'll violate the other oath. Therefore, because of that, because he didn't want to, because he was afraid to tell Joseph to violate his oath, that's why Pharaoh made him make the oath. But that explanation is difficult to explain. Why is it difficult to explain? Because Rashi himself says that explanation later. When Joseph says, let me go, can I go and bury my father? And Pharaoh says, excuse me. Pharaoh says, you can go, and as you swore, and Rashi says, if you want to make an oath, I want to let you go. But if that's the main reason why Pharaoh made Joseph, if that's the main reason why Jacob made Joseph make an oath, is because of that reason, because Pharaoh was afraid. Rashi would have said it right here in the beginning of the parasha. Why did Rashi wait so long to say that? Everything's exact. So the question is, back to square one, why did Joseph have to make an oath if he committed himself to bury his father in the Holy Land? That's a commitment. It's good enough. Why does he have to make an oath? So basically, what's the difference between a commitment and an oath? You know what the difference is? A major difference. When someone commits something, yeah, I make a commit, I'm going to do this, going to do that. What do you do? When it comes the appropriate time, he does it, right? I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, whatever I'm going to do, whatever he's going to do, I'm commit myself to do a certain object, certain thing, certain conduct. So when it comes that opportunity, he will do it. Okay. But when someone makes an oath, it's much more than that. The whole time he's thinking about it. I made an oath. I better do it. When I get to the opportunity, I'm going to do it. It's not like when it comes to opportunity, he does it. The whole time he thinks about it, right? The whole process from when he made the oath until he's going to do certain thing, until he actually commits it, he does it, he is thinking about the oath. So it's a much stronger commitment, an oath, than just making a commitment. Okay?
On a commitment,
Sorry?
on a commitment, can you say bli nader?
That alone, bli nader means I'm not making commitment.
Oh, I thought I meant like you're not promising.
That's
Well,
right. Exactly what I'm saying. I'm not promising. Yeah, I will try. I'm not promising.
yeah.
Yeah.
But on an oath, you
Oh,
wouldn't do that.
you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Make an oath and you're thinking about the altar. It's very, very important. This is just besides what we're talking about here. In general, one should avoid making an oath at all costs. At all costs. It's a very serious issue. God said 10 Commandments, don't make an oath in my name for false, the whole world tremble. It's really serious business. The Talmud says that people will pay large if they'll be accused of a certain thing and they can get away with it because make an oath. And even if they're claiming they're honest, they'll rather pay large sums of money just not to make an oath, even for the truth.
Is a vow and an oath, are they the same thing?
No, similar but not the same.
Okay.
There's one is that's a whole topic for itself. But yeah, but it's different. But right, yeah, okay. Let's continue. So now, okay, so now we're here. Yaakov again. When Yaakov says right at the beginning of, if you look in the parsha, right at the beginning, he says, "Put your hand under my thigh." And what does that mean? Rashi explains it means make an oath, and Joseph did that. So, okay, and Joseph said, "I will do it." That's really an oath. But then Yaakov says Yaakov wasn't happy with that, and Yaakov says again, "Make an oath." Why is he like double saying it again? Like, why is Yaakov so determined? There must be something here. Why is Yaakov so determined, so adamant that Joseph should make this oath? There must be something there. There must be a major reason for this. And this is what we've been, this is what we're gonna, the topic of our discussion here. The fact that Yaakov is going to leave, all the Jews in Egypt, Yaakov's going to leave. He's going to take his body to the land of Israel. Is that good? Don't you want your father near you? Don't you want Jacob to stay with him in Egypt? Why does he want to go? Why is he going? Right? And Yaakov was afraid that Joseph might think it's a better for the Jewish people to have Jacob with them. Joseph would have thought that. And therefore Yaakov was so determined, no, I cannot be here. I cannot stay in Egypt. And that's the difference between Joseph and Jacob. Yaakov is so determined that he should be buried outside in Israel, not to stay in Egypt, and bring him up as soon as they can. And Joseph says, when you leave, take my bones with you. What's that? What's this? So to understand this, what's a major difference between Jacob in Egypt and Joseph in Egypt? They both were in Egypt. What's the difference? Oh, there's a big difference. um, where did Jacob live? He lived in the land of Goshen. Goshen was the place that all the Jewish people were there. It was a Jewish atmosphere. It was a Jewish family, a Jewish house, Jewish residents all over. Like we said in last week's parsha, the end of last week's parsha, they even lived there and they took proper ownership there, and they said they took residence, and they bought stuff and they lived there, and they started real possessing land in Egypt. They started being involved in the country, and Yaakov was surrounded with his family. He was in the heights. He wasn't really in the spirit in unclean areas of Egypt, spiritually speaking, the unclean areas of Egypt. Right? He was higher than that. He was beyond. Joseph, on the other hand, he was in the center of Egypt. He was running the country. He was in the the center of this all of what's going on of Egypt, right? So they had the big contrast between the two, right? Now, so therefore, Jacob is being so holy, he can't stay in Egypt. His place doesn't belong in Egypt. He's too holy to be buried there. He cannot be there. He has to go back to Israel. Joseph, his purpose was to be in Egypt. He had to stay. And he had to be there. What with his merit, the Jewish people will be able to have strength to pull through the difficulties that they have in Egypt. Be able to survive. His being there will give them the merit, give them the schus, give them the capability, the ability to survive and stay in Egypt as they are supposed to be. So you have the contrast. Jacob couldn't stay. He was too holy. He won't be able. He had to go back. And Joseph had to stay because that's what his mission was. You think about it. Even the tribes, we learned a couple of weeks ago in the parsha, when they came down to Egypt, they said, we're shepherds. And when Joseph told his brothers, when Pharaoh asked you, what do you do? Oh, Pharaoh, you're shepherds. And therefore he'll put you away, he'll put you outside the main city, and he will live outside. You won't be involved with the day-to-day activities of the Egyptians. You'll be separated from them. Because then you can separate yourself, you can learn Torah, you can be dedicated to God. You don't have to be involved in the Egyptian stuff. But Joseph was. So he had to stay in Egypt for the help of the Jewish people. Okay? So now, therefore, Yaakov Yosef make an oath. You take me out of Egypt. Lift me up from Egypt. I don't want to stay there. Because Yosef will think it's good Yaakov should stay. We need his merit. We need his protection, his blessings. No, I cannot stay here. And actually, okay, later on what's the time now? What time? Okay, later on we'll get to the stuff that through Jacob being in Israel that helped the Jewish people in Egypt. But anyway, we'll learn about that soon. But anyway, Yaakov was determined that I have to leave. And therefore he had to make Joseph swim because that was against Joseph's way of life. It was opposite to him. You see, if I ask you to do something and it's part of your character, that's not a big deal. You don't have to make an oath. Of course you're going to do it. I don't know. I'll tell you to do something that you obviously do, or something that's within your realm. Of course you'll do it. I didn't make an oath. But when someone asks you to do something which is opposite of your whole way of life, that's already difficult. Why should you want to do that? It's the opposite of everything I stand for, right? So therefore, Jacob was not just accepted, just his Joseph's commitment. He wanted Joseph to make an oath because it didn't make sense to Joseph that type of way. It was opposite of Joseph's way, his train of thought, his whole purpose. He's been in Egypt all these years, and that was his way of you see, as we know, when Joseph was in Egypt, he stayed a tzaddik. He stayed righteous, holy, even though he was in the dumps, in the most evil place in the world. It didn't affect his holiness. He was involved in the culture of Egypt, and he was involved in there, and he stayed at Yosef Tzaddik. And and okay, and that what we see here, that Joseph was something tremendous when Yaakov comes down to Egypt, and he sees Joseph after 22 years, thinking he's dead. What does he say? Now I see you, I can die comfortable. I know. Not after seeing your face, you're still alive. Well, he heard he's alive. Why does he have to see him? Of course, it's nice to see him, but why is he depending his death because he saw Jacob? Because he saw Joseph. He could just say, now I'm ready to die. I'm not now. Or he said, I heard that you're alive, I can die. Why is Jacob so determined to say, I saw your face, that now I know that you're alive? Meaning to say, not only see him physically, I see you spiritually, I can see you're still a tzaddik. I see you're still righteous. I can look at you, I can see who you are. You have this, you can look at someone, okay, and you can look at someone, you can see usually, you can tell the character from their face, right? A lot of times you look at someone, oh, this guy looks, you can work out who he is. Sometimes even not saying a word to this guy, right? He's a helper. Anyway, back to what we're saying. Excuse me. So now, what are we holding here? So now, I think, okay. So as black, but still, why we have to still understand why was Jacob so determined not to? Okay, now we understand why Joseph needed an oath, because Joseph was thinking he would have thought the best thing is for Jacob to go to stay in Egypt. So that's why Jacob had to make Joseph make an oath. Okay, that is understood. But the question is the other side of the circle. Why was Jacob so determined to leave? Why couldn't Jacob say, I'll stay? He knew why didn't he want to stay? And that's the lesson for us. That there's a law in halacha. A prisoner cannot release himself. You need someone else to release you. Okay? Now, okay. So now, so the Jewish people are in Egypt. How are they going to get out of Egypt? With what merit? So you need someone who's not in Egypt, able to pull them out of Egypt. Because if you're there, you can't help yourself. You need someone else to get you out. But Jacob said, I will leave. I'll be buried in Israel. Okay? Let the Jewish people stay in Egypt. But I'll be there and I'll be able to get them out. All right? So that's what he was saying. And then that's what if I go to Israel and I'm buried there, I will be able to help the Jews get out of Egypt. That's what Jacob was saying. That's why he wanted to leave. He knew very well that if he stays, he will not have his merit. But he realized there'll be a much greater merit If I leave Egypt, then I'll be able to get them out of Egypt. You see, if you're out of the, sometimes out of the country, you're able to help. If you're in a certain place, sometimes you need help. Not always works, but sometimes you go to another country and calls the government of the other country and says, "Hey, help those Jews there; they're in trouble." Oh, they get a call from another country. They get a little nervous, right? It happens sometimes, but those people themselves don't always. Unfortunately, happened here in the United States. I don't know if you remember this back in 1991, those riots in Crown Heights. It's terrible, though. Destroying. It was terrible. And they weren't stopping it. This police and the government in New York was just letting it go. And countries from around the world were pressuring the United States federal government and said, take care of Jews in Crown Heights. Look at your country. Look what's going on. And they did. It stopped it. It made them stop the riots and protected the Jews. I mean, sometimes if you're there, you can't help yourself. But if you get help from others, who's a different. So anyway, back to here. If the Jews go to Israel, if Jacob goes to Israel, he's able to help the Jews in Egypt. Okay, now, what's this idea? This is very interesting. What's the whole lesson of this whole topic, this whole discussion that we just spoke till now? Jacob's in Egypt, and he lived his best years in Egypt. He saw people learning Torah, his children learning Torah, his grandchildren learning Torah. There was a yeshiva there. Everything was fine. So he says, no, this is not where a Jew belongs. A Jew belongs in Israel. We don't belong over here. We're here, we don't belong. Wherever good it is, we're in exile. We need Mashiach to take us back to Israel, be there. It's not a place where Jews belong. It says, I believe in the true belief. Obviously, the Inhale will be delayed. I hope for him every day that he's going to come. This is not the place where we belong. A Jew does not belong in exile. He doesn't belong here. He's here. He's begging every day. He prays in Amida 3 times a day. He says the first prayer in the morning. Please, we hope for your salvation the whole day. If he didn't come yet, Mashiach, then davens by Mincha. He has to get for Mashiach. Mashiach didn't come yet, he davens by Ma'ariv. Every day, even Shabbos and Yom Tov, we mention it in the prayer. we should see, our eyes should see that you return to Zion, mercy. So every day we're begging, and that's a lesson. We're begging Hashem for Mashiach, and that's a lesson that we're not satisfied where we are. And then we realize, to them, if we realize this is not our place where we belong, so we will not fall into the trap that we're in. We're in exile. But we wouldn't copy the atmosphere that we're in. We wouldn't be affected by the surroundings because we know we don't belong here. If we think this is our place, this is where we belong, then we can start copying people and start learning from the environment and stuff. And that can cause us a downfall. God forbid. Excuse me. But if a Jew realizes that this is not where he belongs in the Holy Land. He belongs with Mashiach there. He's here on a temper. He doesn't belong here. That will cause them to be elevated, not to fall down to this the Egypt that we're in, the uncleanliness of the world around us that we're in. It will be merited to see Mashiach very soon. Thank you for joining. One point is that you have to ask for Mashiach. We have to demand it. Demand it. So we want Mashiach. We want it. It's like the Chafetz Chaim says, there's a law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this law. If you have a worker and he's a day worker and he doesn't ask for his payment, does the owner have to pay him? The answer is no. If you don't ask for your payment, he doesn't have to pay it. You don't have to pay it. So we're in Galus. If you don't ask for Mashiach, then they doesn't have to give Mashiach. You have to demand Mashiach. Demand it. Want it. Beg. We have to do things, of course, to ask for Mashiach. But we have to realize this is not our place. All right. Welcome. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Hope you join us, hopefully, complete next week.
Be well.
Well, thank you.
Thank
For
Thank you, Rabbi Zalman.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, a little bit of a kind
You
of
sure, Rabbi, feel well?
yeah, I have a flu, but I'm getting over it. So
Okay.
Speedy recovery.
amen. Amen. Yeah.